Something big bore. I would say absolute minimum being 308. Expect multiple shots. The more oomph, the better. I would personally go no less than 45-70. Then, burn the wood of a white ash tree till it's ash. Color of the ash doesn't matter, just that it's pure white ash. Make an emulsion with the ash and water. Use this paste and paint it onto your bullets. The heavier, and harder the bullet, the better. The 406 grain hardened cast lead bullets in 45-70 HSM bare load would work great. It's what I use and it has gotten me results. Carry the leftover ash with you, you will need it. It's also smart to keep wards as well. A simple dream catcher can help protect you if made by an actual shaman. Medicine bags help quite a bit too. Just about anything the tribe you're dealing with uses to keep away evil spirits will help. Now, once you down a skinwalker or Wendigo, you need to consecrate the body. It helps knowing a bit of the lore of the tribes in your area. Learn how the shaman or medicine women of the tribe send off the dead. Or better yet, have a shaman or medicine woman with you and learn the rituals and get good at performing them flawlessly. Doing the wrong thing will result in unwanted results. Once the ritual is complete, cover the body in the ash you saved, and then burn it. The fire will burn green and the body will shriek and scream. This is normal. Let it do its thing. Render it to ash, which shouldn't take long. The ritual, being what it is, weakens the evil spirit and the consecration removes it from the world. This next step is important. Bury the remains. Do not leave the ash of the creature on the surface. Failure to bury it will result in that spirit returning and searching for a new host. Do not leave the ash without burying it. Take this from someone who works with a local tribe to deal with skinwalkers. I wouldn't recommend doing this, but if you do, just take my advice.
Got any stories?
Nothing especially exciting. It still gets spoopy as fuck at night, especially when you're at 9,000 feet in the Sierras and start to smell the smell. Most of the time, we work without verbal communication. Typical hand signals suffice. Since they can mimic speech, albeit poorly, you have to take precaution when working in groups. I learned that lesson hard on my first trip. Also got not worried about, but thankfully I had a seasoned mono Indian hunter with me. Be me. Be new to the craft. Working on the western side of the Sierras in the Oak foothills near one of the ranch areas. Spook nigger causing enough problems for one of the tribes that they decide being quiet about it wasn't enough. Q long, 5-hour trek through the tick-infested, poison oak-filled live oak woodland with mono Indian hunter. At about 4 in the morning do a stupid and lose track of my teammate in a thicket. Do another stupid by calling out to him rather than using tree knocks. Hey hunter, where'd you go? The smell immediately starts to waft around me. The smell of copper and death. Pungent and putrid. Oh shit. SHP. Hey hunter, go where you, on what seems like continuous loop. Sound feels like it's right behind me with the stench getting stronger. In partial panic mode, not ready for it. Hunting partner storms into the thicket and turns on his weapon light, lighting up the monster. Got my first look at what we hunt in the form of a 7-foot-tall grotesque creature with long claws. Its bones shone through its pale skin and its head was that of a coyote, but larger. Spoop shirked at the light and retreated. Hunter started campfire and we waited out the rest of the night on high alert. I got a very good lesson the next morning on not being an idiot. They hunt those who are alone and afraid. They listen more than watch, and crashing through the brush and speaking out loud is a great way to end up dead and flayed in the forest.
Can we get some proofs?
Sorry bub, aside from telling stories that may or may not be lies on the internet, I can't speak on specifics. I know that you guys know about these creatures. But point of the matter is that tribes, especially those who own casinos, don't want people to know about what lurks in the woods on res land. Skinwalkers are probably the worst though. Most cunning and dangerous. I can show you my kit though. Here's my 4570 I prefer to take with me. You treat the ammo right before you set out. Burn the white ash in ritual, pray to the good spirits of the tribe, treat your ammo, and go. I got another one that is more amusing than routine. While working with an Apache and Navajo hunters in eastern Arizona, reports of a spooper came in from an Apache res near the Arizona-New Mexico border. No reports of dead livestock, or missing persons. Yet, so I geared up for the drive out there. Met with my Apache and Navajo contacts. While they are separate nations, and have a history of bad blood, they are more willing to work with each other on cases like this. Apaches see skinwalkers as bad spirits who are the embodiment of evil. Navajo see them as neutral spirits at worst. Drive out to area of reports having to be very mindful of private land. Bad for business to been seen killing a spook on someone's ranch. Idea is to flush it onto res land and away from prying eyes. 3 hours into fourth night in the area when we finally catch a break. Find what seems like ritual site with hawk feathers, bones, and the head of a big trophy buck mule deer. Disappointment.ogg. Note that a ritual site is odd for a skinwalker, but not uncommon for older, wiser spirits. Here crashing through undergrowth of the forest behind us. Break rule of no speaking and yell out, damn thing blindsided us. We all level our rifles on the sound when a naked native man bursts through the trees and immediately starts trying to give us mushrooms. Completely ignoring the fact that 3 big bore rifles are trained on his chest, he says, "Hey white stag, do you want some of these?" Start to put 2 and 2 together and realize that this Apache man, dirty and naked standing before me, had probably bought a fuck ton of shrooms with his casino dividends and ran off into the forest thinking he was some sort of forest creature. That what was spotted in the forest was not a skinwalker, but one dude high as fucking balls prancing around, naked and dirty for the past week and a half. The hunters and I had a good laugh about it.
So these things are real?
Unfortunately. A history of violence and hatred between tribes for thousands of years has really done a number that even today we deal with them. Curses ain't no joke. Especially those who have physical manifestations.
Okay. So you said you use the ash to make a paste then paint your ammo. How durable is that paste? Will chambering the round scratch it off? Also, what if you are a religious person and can't pray to other gods? In before Christ cuck.
The ash does come off, but not enough to completely remove it. I am sure that repeated cycling will remove it after a while. But since I treat my ammo immediately prior to a hunt, it's not an issue for me. Anything I bring back, I clean. As for your second question, no matter your religious affiliation, a healthy respect for the gods and or spirits of another is important. I consider myself Christian, but I also understand that spirits inhabit our world. I am thankful for any good spirit or God that is willing to help watch over me and keep me safe. I am sure God understand, especially considering my line of work. My personal feels are that it's no different if I am hunting skinwalkers, jinn, werewolves, or other horrible beasties. If I respect the culture and beliefs of those who host me so that I may make the lives of the everyman easier, then am I not helping God by ridding the world of evil?
When you pray, do you pray to God thanking Him for having the spirits protect you, or do you pray to the spirits themselves?
I start out by praying to God for His guidance and help with my task, and then to the spirits for their guidance and help. It hasn't seemed to bite me in the ass yet.
I'd love to see more of that sexy long rifle. My God, that thing is a beauty. I see that you've recently finished it. I need no proof. It's all good. Are you planning on bringing the long rifle on a skinwalker hunt one day? How about some more stories instead? Or maybe some tips or tricks for your first encounter?
Take a muzzle loader that slings 50 caliber round ball on a spookster hunt? Hell no. Follow-ups are often necessary. It's a toy plain and true. Sometimes I just load powder charges and shoot them off just for giggles. Black powder is neat as fuck. Tips and tricks? Don't be afraid, don't panic, don't speak unnecessarily, and don't get separated from your group if you're in one. Like I said, these things listen more than they watch, and they will prey first on those who are alone, afraid, panicked, and making the most noise. The best advice I can give is to prepare yourself both physically and mentally. A good understanding of how to track in the woods also helps. You have to understand how dangerous these things are and how easily you can be lured to your death. Having faith, no matter what kind of faith it is, goes a long way to help keep your resolve. Many tribes put a strong faith on invincibility. Most hunters I work with believe to their core that the spirits will protect them and that no evil spirit can do them harm. It's a bit harder of a concept for those of other faiths, but believe it or not, I've seen those beasts stop in their tracks at the sight of a hunter that shows no fear. Personally, I go into my solo hunts with a belief that it could be my last. I don't fear the outcome because I understand the danger of what I do. In a sense, it is my form of bravery in the shadow of evil because I know the service I perform saves the lives of good people. So far, I have not had one get close enough to me to cause me harm. Though I have, on several occasions, come up against the same spirit multiple times. I can't find an opportunity to bring it down, and it can't find a weakness in my resolve. Though I think we've finally come to an understanding. Sometimes the older spirits can be reasoned with. I could tell that story if you like. So, like I said previously, not all skinwalkers are inherently evil. To the Navajo in particular, they can be good spirits or at worst neutral spirits. Shaman would purposely undergo the change into a skinwalker. They would do so to protect their specific tribe, or be guardians, or against the enemies of the tribe. I encountered one I believe fell into this category, and I met it on more than one occasion. Be me on a hunt in southeastern Utah, near Four Corners where most of my out of the Sierras calls are. Per report, the Ute tribe had some missing livestock, and a skinwalker-like being was spotted. Pack up shit and make drive out there to solo hunt the edge of Ute res land. Nothing for 5 nights. 6th night, gonna call it the next day, when I finally encounter the skinwalker. Beast moved fast, faster than I could track, but it never even attempted an attack. Beast seemed to be trying to scare me off, but I knew better than to attempt to run. Stood my ground till morning when it finally moved off into the brush. Next night, same charade. It circled my position with no clean shot, but never attacked. 3rd night I laid out a ward of ash just a bit farther out from where it was circling the last 2 nights. This of course was my supply for cremation. So, I knew this trip was a bust at this point. Sat and waited for it to show up. On cue it appeared at the edge of the ward. I kept my rifle on my back and just watched, and listened. After an hour of circling it finally stopped and stared at me. In a contorted and painful voice, it demanded that I leave and never return, or face death. Asked if I could have safe passage out. It nodded a yes. Left the area with no kill. I did some research after I got home. I keep a fairly extensive library of lore and tales from many of the tribes in the West. There was a legend of a Navajo medicine man who gave his spirit to protect his tribe from attacking Apache warbands. He became a guardian spirit for the valley his tribe inhabited. He apparently took his work very seriously. I got a call a few days after I got home regarding the livestock. Turns out a large coyote pack had moved into the area. So I figured the old spirit of the Four Corners posed no threat and wanted to cause no harm. I wouldn't camp there as an Apache though. It's not for the faint of heart or the weak of will. Loving guns is great, and enjoying the forest is awesome. But you have to have a certain drive to want to do it. It's hard for me to say what to do since I kinda fell into it. I had a spookster killing shit just off my property and I got fed up. I ended up not killing it and almost becoming something not to worry about in the process. So, I started to research them. Legend and lore led me to more legend and lore. I built a respectable library of it all. Which led me to finding a hunter willing to teach me. Which led to my first real hunt that again, almost got me killed. Honestly, the hunters are secretive. Like I said, the tribes don't want anyone to know that Wendigos and Skinwalkers actually exist. It's bad for business. If you want to get into the business, you have to really seek it out for yourself.
Will these things follow people? I don't know how to describe the similar phenomena we have in the rural deep south. They go by a lot of names and my buddy asked me about them and I told him never to invoke their name after dark, and he did it for a goof. He lived about 2 hours away but called me multiple times at all hours claiming that this thing was stalking his farm and watching him from the wood line. I told him to make some sort of peace offering which he did, and thereafter it supposedly left him alone.
As far as I know, they don't leave a home range. From everything I've read and been told, they are generally bound to an area by a curse or powerful ritual. Names never play into it either. They become the spirit, no longer bound to a human name, but to a description. Names are powerful bindings. It doesn't matter if our names are changed or the likes. The names that our parents gave to us upon birth is something of immense power. I've never heard of a case where a skinwalker has left its range to hunt someone who invoked a name. They exist with a purpose. Generally that purpose is spelled out in a curse, such as the curse placed upon a tribe for evil deeds. The spirit will then haunt the lands of that tribe. It won't leave that area. If it is a skinwalker, your buddy may just have piqued its interest on its home range. Though they are definitely more of a Western US thing, they do occur all over North America. I recommend burning some white ash to act as a ward. Place it at the threshold to his doors. There's no appeasing it. Either it grows bored and leaves, or it gets what it wants. You can always see about working with a professional if you can find one. I don't go any farther east than New Mexico. Maybe work with one of the nations around him to see about dealing with it. If they would even be willing, that is.
I've heard of the occasional skinwalker wandering into these woods too. I'll do some research and maybe find a creature that's a problem for people and do my best. Aim for the eyes with double-aught buckshot will be my strategy.
Don't get yourself killed, friendo.
How good are a skinwalker's senses?
Excellent, though they prefer to listen than watch. With a voice and a name they can cause all sorts of havoc. Though they can see in the darkness. They have fantastic senses of smell as well. Their eyes are sensitive to light though, and a flashlight can ward them off temporarily. Basically, they will see, hear, smell, and taste your scent long before you even know one is around. That's why it pays to be vigilant, know how to look for the signs of their presence, pay attention to the smells around you, and the quietness of the wildlife. If you know how they operate, you can game the system and eliminate their element of surprise. It doesn't help that they like to play with their prey for as long as they can. Young ones are especially cocky in that regard.
How does UV light affect them?
I've not heard of anyone attempting to use UV bulbs in their lights. I do know a powerful UV bulb can kill bacteria and burn your skin. So I assume it would have similar effect on them. Might blind them more than standard incandescent or LED. But, they can use their hearing just as well as their sight. So, keep that in mind if you're going to blind them.
Any other helpful signs other than the usual fleshy smell and quiet wildlife?
Well, assuming you make it near their lair. Claw marks on trees, lots of dead deer. Specifically deer skulls in trees. They have a fondness for bucks in particular. The best way to know you're being hunted is the smell and all the animals going quiet. The stench gets so strong you can taste the copper, with a strange tingle. Like putting your tongue to a 9-volt battery. It feels like the air chills, you tend to get goosebumps. They won't make a sound, they almost glide through the undergrowth. Keep an eye on the moonlight, if you have a moon. They circle before attacking. Shadows help you keep track of them. Once you know you're being hunted, just build your resolve and stand your ground. They relish the chase, but if you keep a strong heart and mind, they waver and attempt to confront you. This confrontation is their attempt to scare you into submission. It's a challenge to them, and they don't like it. This is when you take your shots. You put them down, and quickly. A wounded spookster is an angry spookster and they will make your life hell till they are destroyed.
Have you ever fucked with or trolled a skinwalker during the pursuit or kill?
I haven't fucked with one before. But I did have a particularly aggravating time with one being a royal pain in the ass. After a 5-day hunt, I was tired, sore, and pissed off. I had chased this thing through gullies and over hills. Across a stream, 3 times. When it finally got tired of being followed, it confronted me. I was livid at this point. Wasting my time, wasting my energy and such. As it circled and I wait for an opportunity, I remember yelling out, "You motherfucking piece of shit." To my amusement it picked up on shit and piece only. It kept screeching out shit piece. Shit piece. Shit piece. My anger turned to hysterical laughter. The change in emotions caused it a lot of confusion. It stopped and stared me down. As I leveled my rifle at its sternum it let out one final shit piece. Thank fuck it was one of the rare times one shot was enough. I was in stitches from the laughter. I gave shit piece a Christian cross where I buried its ashes.
Never heard of a smell before, have heard of a sense of being watched but not an overpowering smell.
It's a distinctive smell of rotting flesh and copper. It's hard to describe without actually experiencing it. As they get closer the smell gets so strong you can taste it. You kinda get used to it after a while. Though the first time smelling it made me want to puke. There are a few other commandos here who have smelled it. It's an unforgettable scent.
What are the best methods of surviving an encounter if you're a no-guns who is having some fun in the woods?
Steel your resolve, build a fire, stay vigilant, and wait till daylight. Don't try to make it out. That's when they kill, when the prey is afraid, trying to flee. Don't give them an inch. Wait it out, don't fear them. Don't give them anything to latch onto. If you're in a group, don't let anyone leave. Stay together and watch each other's back. That's all you can do. Best bet is to stay armed.
Well, I just don't believe that they are real desu. It'd be cool in a way if they were, but I find it unlikely. If you are what you say, or you just enjoy LARPing, where do they go during the day? Are they definitively different from skinwalkers, and if so, do you encounter them ever, and is either one rarer? Can you even kill a Wendigo? Is it a corporeal thing or a cursed spirit? What else have the Indians left behind?
Where do they go during the day? The wife and I have a few acres in the western Sierras. We grow a lot of berries and make jams to sell. We also sell eggs and such. She also works at a hotel as a hostess, and I do some freelance writing. Gives me plenty of time to ply my trade. Are they definitively different from skinwalkers, and if so, do you encounter them ever, and is either one rarer? Can you even kill a Wendigo? Is it a corporeal thing or a cursed spirit? Wendigos are an entirely different beast. We don't have many, if any, out here in the West. They are a northeast thing. Built on legend passed down by the Iroquois. Whereas some skinwalkers are willingly turned, like the Navajo spirits. Wendigos are forged out of intense violence and hatred. I've never had the misfortune of encountering one myself. But from my readings, it takes a strong shaman to remove them. That is a skill I don't have. Thankfully, they are fairly rare, but exceptionally dangerous. What else have the Indians left behind? I wouldn't say any of these were left behind. There are still skinwalkers being created today. Apache, Ute, or Zuni people seeking immense power, turning themselves into horrible beasts. Oftentimes they have no idea what sort of evil they are unleashing. Sometimes they don't care. But for other spirits, there are a few guardian spirits what wander North America. Sasquatch immediately comes to mind. They are forest protectors for the most part. Though still very much animals. They've had a long-standing relationship with PNW tribes. Or so I've been told. I am sure there are more spirits that exist that I just don't know about, or won't ever be told about.
If they have excellent sense of smell, then surely that strength can be used against them. Are there any herbs or plants that you can burn in order to irritate them and turn their strength into a weakness?
Some of the hunters carried around sage. Greasewood was popular. It smells good too. I would assume that anything with a strong scent could bother them enough to cause confusion. Try dousing yourself in curry powder and report back to us anon.
Any serious spook hunter would use primarily 12 gauge for the ease of delivering blessed heroin, or whatever other weird shit kills the spook. Or a 5,000 foot-pound slug.
Anything that can stop it in its tracks is preferable. I don't see why a Foster slug won't work. A little harder to treat in white ash than bullets. Unless you're loading your own slugs.
Sasquatches are considered spirits and not physical animals?
It's difficult to say. The nations that have the most contact with them, the Yakima and Nez Perce, consider them guardian spirits. They are still very animalistic though, albeit with a culture and traditions of their own. I have never personally encountered one face to face, but have been warned by them on numerous occasions. Though I don't believe they would cause me harm. There is still a sense of magic about them. If they don't want you to find them, you will never find them. Maybe it's their own spiritual beliefs that grant them this. But the Yakima and Nez Perce do consider them spirits.
Do you carry any sort of sidearm or backup weapon in case your rifle shits the bed? Can a smaller caliber do the job in a pinch, or will that just piss these things off?
I have a Ruger Super Blackhawk in .44 Magnum that I carry. Not so much as a backup, but more so as predator deterrent. Smaller calibers can work, but it's not something I would personally do. The white ash is the important part. But physically stopping them in their tracks from a hit is almost as important. Big bore tends to do that. I would say the cutoff would be .308. Preferably in something semi-auto. Anything smaller and it's going to take a lot of work putting them down. A wounded spookster is a dangerous one. Bigger is always better.
I wouldn't say any of these were left behind. What about things created by extinct tribes? Anything like that left wandering around?
It's hard to say. Many tribes have the same legends. Oral traditions passed down thousands of years from grandmother to grandson to daughter and so on. Skinwalkers have been almost universal to all tribes in the West. Just like Wendigos in the East. If extinct tribes have left remains of their own long-lost legends, I've not encountered them, nor have I known anyone to encounter them. Older spirits tend to avoid people. Though there is the Thunderbird. Quetzalcoatl to the Aztec. There was a tribe in southern Arizona that believed in a great bird spirit that would protect them from evil spirits by throwing lightning at them. There have been the occasional sightings to this day, though that tribe is long gone.
Say you're just in a woods with no intentions of hunting any spooks, but get unwanted attention from one anyway. You're armed, but only with something a typical /cunt might have, and none of your ammo is prepped with an ash emulsion, nor do you have any ash trees available to you. What would you recommend? If confronted, will shooting it without any white ash just piss it off? Should you mag dump center mass and just pray it stays down or fucks off? Should you try to burn and bury it anyway, or just GTFO post haste? Assuming it's possible to get out alive, what's the right thing to do? Just shut up about it and never return? Try to contact a local tribe and warn them something is out there and pissed off? Is there any way to get in touch with those like yourself if you find something dangerous that should be dealt with in secret, or is your situation such a rare thing that it'd be a waste of time to try?
Pissing it off is a real possibility without the proper wards. I know they can be wounded and driven off without the treatment. I am not sure if they can be truly killed. I've not tried it. The best bet in that situation is to build a fire, resolve yourself, and wait it out. They do not like sunlight and will not pursue during the day. Like many evil spirits, nighttime is the right time for them. I wouldn't mention it to anyone. No one will believe you anyway. If you truly believe it's a threat, you can attempt to speak to a shaman or wise woman. But unless they see it as a threat, they won't do anything. I work contract with those nations. No one outside that circle knows I do what I do, and I'm not about to give out my contact info on 4chan of all places.
Any werewolf/other mainstream cryptid stories? Also, how many skinwalkers have you killed?
Well, in a way werewolves are skinwalkers. Tales of the shape-shifting shaman taking on the form of a wolf or coyote. This is prevalent in the Navajo legends. But that is only one kind of werewolf legend. I've never been after a true proper lycanthrope. They're so incredibly rare these days. Though I do hear stories filter around from various parts of the country. No, I just deal with skinwalkers. I have about 20 dealt with so far. I've been on more hunts, a lot more hunts. Often you turn up with nothing. Sometimes, you get outwitted. They're not stupid creatures, and as I've said, the older ones tend to know how to avoid confrontation when needed.
I'd absolutely love to be in your line of work, provided you're not some LARPer. Is there any way to contact you personally, or any other fellow hunters?
Unless you can convince a tribal shaman or wise woman about a threat, you're going to have a hard time contacting the hunters. I just get called when my services are needed. Every now and then a hunter will be okay with teaching someone the trade, like what happened with me. But, it's fairly rare. I just happen to be making enough noise with my research and such to be noticed. I don't want to say it's an exclusive club. They are just understandably secretive due to the nature of what they deal with.
I've seen you mention older ones quite a bit. What's the cutoff between old and young? Are there still people out there to this day becoming skinwalkers?
There is no real cutoff for an older spirit. It's about wisdom they've gained with age. But, based off my readings, that wisdom takes a long time to accrue. I'd say if the spirit is older than 250 years, it's an older one. It's pretty noticeable when you're on the hunt. They are far less brash, more calculating, and patient. Occasionally they make ritual sites, but not always. I consider them far more dangerous because of that patience. Younger ones tend to be cocky and will confront you when challenged. This makes for easy takedowns. Yes, they are still being created. Wannabe shaman or witch doctors chasing great power, not understanding the consequences of losing humanity. Or just not caring. Once knowledge is created, it will always exist. There is no real ability to stop it. It's all about power for them. Of course when they're young, they're sloppy. So, that's a plus.
So when you're on a hunt, what do you do during the day?
Mostly get rest, eat, that kinda stuff. I also take time to plan my next moves, prepare more ash. Whatever I need to. Mostly just rest. Staying up and alert in the dark woods all night is fairly tiring.
When you go out at night, do you build a big fire in one area to look for them, or do you use a flashlight to hunt them?
Lights are a last resort. Full-blown brown alert kinda shit. Fires work as decent wards combined with steel resolve. Flashlights temporarily confuse them. No, hunting is done in the dark. Light just kills your night vision. They rarely approach camps, and if they do, they keep their distance. Too much noise, too much light. If you can do so safely, don't let your fire die at night. Keep it going. They'll stay away if you do. Instead they look for people alone, or in small groups in the darkness. This is how we hunt. We prey on their instincts and nature. Though it's a bit more tricky alone. I've considered using NVGs, but it's not a catch-all solution either due to limiting your peripheral vision and situational awareness. Maybe I'll try it sometime though. Figure out a way to make it work.
How old are you?
I'm in my late 20s. I started pretty young on my family's land. Like I said way above, got tired of a spoopster in the area killing shit on the property. Built my skills from that failure. Got good at doing what I do, and here I am.
What is it about white ash that they do not like? It being formerly alive? Chemical composition?
The ash from a white ash tree is used in many rituals and ceremonies for quite a few tribes. It's less chemical composition, more spiritual. It's been used for thousands of years as a ward against evil. Spread some of the ash at your threshold and evil will stay away. Silver also works against most beasties, but is considerably more expensive than tree. I don't know all the specifics as to exactly why it works this way. It just does. I am sure there is some reason somewhere, but it's not been in any of my readings. Probably based off thousands of years of oral traditions before finally being scribed down to text.
What's the coolest thing you've ran into / killed? What big name monsters are actually real? Any pics?
I've seen a few wolves where wolves haven't existed in the last few hundred years. From what the hunters have told me, is that wolves and bears are often spirit-bound as guardian spirits. We leave them be of course, and they leave us be. There may not have been a grizzly in California since 1912, but there is a spirit bear that does watch over Yosemite who takes on the form of a grizzly. Meeting the guardians is always pretty neat. No pics though. Never any time to take photos on the hunt, especially alone. That and the hunters wouldn't appreciate it. I've been to some beautiful places though. On occasion I go back on my own time, during the day, to really take it in.
Do you use night sights or just instinctual point shooting?
I have high visibility dots on my sights. Not tritium, but bright enough to see the buckhorn rear sight and front sight. Maintaining night vision is crucial, any sort of unnecessary light needs to be cut out. You get used to using gray dots in the darkness.
Central Missouri fag here. Anything that goes bump in the night?
I'm pretty sure you in the Goatman territory. I also understand there are some aggressive groups of Sasquatch out there too. I am not super familiar with the area. I've not hunted past New Mexico. Gets to be too far for me.
Incorporeals apparently bear a strong dislike toward silver, probably because it is highly conductive. Also, copper and gold, this might be the reason why Tumbaga was ever a thing. This also lines up with lightning lobbing bird that smites evil. Speaking of lightning, electrical discharge produces hard UV, do they not like that too?
If you're asking if you can use a taser on a skinwalker, I'm gonna go ahead and say that's a bad idea. I am sure it will cause them to recoil, but won't drive them away. High voltage equipment could in theory fry them, but you have to understand they are incredibly tough, and have an amazing ability to regenerate. Which is why the bodies are consecrated and cremated then buried. Though getting the equipment that could fry one into the woods and powering it could be a whole nother level of fun. As to the point for Thunderbirds, they didn't destroy evil, they drove it away. Kind of like a ward in a sense, but they did serve as guardians.
I'm a big camper, so any advice for fucking up a goatman or squatch? I have relatives that have seen them, but I don't fuck with that shit, especially when I'm out alone backpacking.
Squatch should be deadable with just about anything above 308. If you would take it moose hunting, you can down a squatch. That is, if you ever even see one. Even if they fuck with you, they have a strange ability to not be seen. For goatmen, same skinwalker gear should apply. Though I am not certain where the legend stems from, so I am a little unsure about what wards will work.
I thought you meant Wendigos this whole time. So is what you're hunting more like a flesh gate? If not, have you seen a flesh gate? Like a rakish being.
Skinwalkers are shapeshifters. It's said to take the skin from animals and become that animal. According to Navajo legend, they are still human, but in exchange for their unending service they gain the ability to take on any form they want. The evil spirit versions take on the shape of grotesque monstrosities. Long spindly arms and legs, grease-matted manes, heads that seem like the decomposing head of a coyote or wolf. Long claws. I guess they would be more similar to a rake in that sense. Or a leshen or leshy of European lore. Though less angry forest spirits, more murderous death machines. Wendigos are similar, but the banishment process is a bit different. I've not dealt with flesh gates and I have no intention to.
So you believe in magic/incantations?
To an extent. I've followed the traditions of the hunters I've worked with. So far their actions have proven to be quite effective. The way I look at it, if I respect the culture and legends of those I work with, it's not steered me wrong by preparing in their way. I do know what's effective against what I hunt though. If that's magic, so be it. If it's something else, okay. It works and that's all I really care about in that sense. Though thinking about magic and there still being beings who live in it is a fun thought.
In some British, Scotland or Cornwall, I think, folklore, rowan twigs were used as charms against malicious fairies. Rowan is also known as mountain ash. Do you believe there may be a connection? Also, what is your opinion regarding kushtaka's?
Could be. It seems like ash is a common species of wood used for wards. I can't say what it is about ash that gives it the properties though. As for kushtaka's, I don't actually know much about them. Seems sort of similar to Sasquatch and a shapeshifter. I've not done any work in the POC NW, but I do have a bit of text on the tribes up there. Most of it is on Sasquatch. I mean, if I was asked to hunt a kushtaka, I would. But it's not something I would make a regular occurrence of. I like my Southwest.
I live in Louisiana near New Orleans. Are there any spooks that you know of around me? What about the forests of Mississippi?
There is all sort of Creole, voodoo, and native shit that goes on in that area. Between skunk apes and rakes to voodoo warlocks making zombies. In the woods, keep an eye out for skunk apes and rakes. Remember that Choctaw culture was a fairly violent one as well. I would expect the spirits there to not be kind.
What about in Oklahoma?
Probably mixture of Midwest Sasquatch, the occasional skinwalker, and the prevalence of the goatman. Wendigos would be a much more seldom occurrence.
How/why do skinwalkers kill? Do they do it just for territorial purposes? Or do they do it for food? And is it like a go for the throat from behind ambush predator similar to what large cats do?
They kill for the thrill and for food. They generally eat what they kill, but will kill just for the sake of killing as well. They prefer to confront their prey. They can sense emotion, and they relish in fear. They make sure their prey sees them before the kill. Sometimes the prey is taken back to the lair to be flayed alive. They're sadistic creatures. Well, the evil ones are.
By rakes do you mean flesh gates? Where/when would I find any spirits in the swamp, for example? Like Honey Island.
A flesh gate is a bit more similar to a skinwalker. But really skinwalkers, gates, and rakes are all of the same evil. To prey upon people and feed on their fear. Those skinwalkers have an inherent spiritual power to them that, as far as I know, is not present in gates or rakes. Honey Island would be a start. But some of the legends seem sort of new. If you really want to hunt these things, that may be a place to start.
And are the skunk apes and rakes in Mississippi or Louisiana?
I believe skunk apes inhabit most of the swamps of the South. They avoid people for the most part, but can be aggressive if cornered. Rakes, I cannot say for certain. I've not encountered a rake, or been in an area where they would be encountered.
Is it possible to genuinely communicate with a peaceful skinwalker? Like an actual conversation and possibly befriend one?
If they had reason to. One skinwalker I encountered, as illustrated in a story above, was simply trying to get me to leave an area. We had a small exchange, and I was able to peacefully leave. Befriend one? I can't see that happening with anyone who lives outside their tribe. While a skinwalker may be benevolent, their tribe they are bound to protect may be long gone. So being able to befriend them would never be possible. Then those who simply act as guardians may never even make their presence known to you. These tend to be very old spirits. I don't hear of many young shaman or medicine men willingly giving up humanity to protect their family and tribesmen anymore.
By tribes, do you mean people currently still living with their people on their reservations? Or Maramuts, like yours truly, who a majority of have at least some native ancestry? If it matters, I'm a fourth native, Osage, and Cherokee, but like most I have never even visited a reservation. My great-grandmother was full-blooded Cherokee, and my mother has a few stories of her being very spiritual and speaking stereotypical Injun bullshit about signs and shit.
Well, you have nations like the Navajo, the Apache, the Blackfoot, Choctaw, Nez Perce, etc. Then you have individual tribes, such as the Comanche, Ute, Algonquin, and the likes. Some are part of greater nations, some are not independent. All tend to have their own sovereign reservation land. The spirits tend to be loyal to a tribe, not a nation. If they are loyal to humanity at all. Not tribes are in nations, but all nations consist of tribes. Of course, the nomadic nature of the tribes and nations of the past does make it hard to really nail down where things are supposed to be and such. Most activity tends to happen around current reservations. I have a bit of Apache in myself, but not enough to lay claim to anything.
Any spoops in the Ohio Valley? There's a bunch of Mississippian mountains near where I live, though those tribes left in the 1600s. Shawnee and Miami lived here when Europeans started showing up.
That's getting into Wendigo territory. I personally would be wary around the mounds. No telling what kind of spoopsters call it their territory.
Well, that's a fun thing to read, with the nearest mound about a half-mile from my house. There aren't any known descendants to the Mississippians, though, so would it be safe to assume anything they left behind are very old spirits like you wrote about above?
Probably fairly old. So expect them to be cunning, or outright impossible to find.
Where does the white ash lore come from? I hear people mention it about skinwalkers especially, but white ash doesn't grow in the home range of the Navajo where skinwalkers come from. Could it be that it actually refers to the white wood ash of any burnt wood? Maybe it's a mix-up with the white sage of smudge sticks? I can't find if this is just /x/tier lore or if it has cultural significance.
Items are traded, wood is no different, especially if it has properties that are helpful in warding off evil spirits. I don't know what it is about the ash of a white ash tree that has these properties. I don't know if there are other species of tree that have these properties either. Lore and legends passed down from generation to generation through stories tend to be misconstrued and specifics changed by the time they make it to print. What I do know is that the ash of a white ash tree does harm them, seriously. A branch of the desert sage bush, or creosote bush wards against them. Silver drives them away, and light blinds them. I am sure there are other trees that are just as effective. Mesquite may be one now that I think about it. Maybe desert ironwood due to its strength and resilience. But white ash? It just works.
Wendigos are a northeast thing. Does Illinois count? I live there, and I'm wondering what it would take to get myself prepared and in the business for this kind of thing.
I would say that anything up to the Mississippi would be Wendigo territory. They are fairly rare, but highly aggressive and dangerous. So be cautious. If you're going to attempt to hunt Wendigos, treat very carefully. They are much harder to deal with than skinwalkers due to their resilience and banishing ritual. Work with local medicine men or women. if you even have any near you.
How do I become Skinwalker?
Go talk to a shaman, they'll tell you to fuck off in far more fun ways than I can.